Hey everybody. I want to offer some reflections on today's Venus-Saturn conjunction. Venus will meet Saturn exactly on 27 degrees of Pisces today, and really they've been in a conjunction for the past weeks and weeks, for the past month already, because of Venus retrograde, of course. She went from Aries back to Pisces and has been basically not moving much at all. With the ending of her retrograde, then she stations, doesn't move at all, and then slowly starts to move forward again. And that also reflects an inner moving forward in regards to our Venus function. Love, relationships, values, our own inner sense of value, and our value systems. Since it's the end of Pisces, and the North Node is also hanging out there, which implies this collective and also personal evolutionary intention, where and how we really can step into greatest expression of a greater soul dynamic that up until this moment we were maybe not fully conscious of, or that we neglected. So the North Node always reflects this path of evolutionary intention, but also the pressure of it. And this triple conjunction of Venus, North Node, and Saturn is so significant. Even more so moving forward into this really and highly explosive new moon. Normally the full moons are the explosive ones. But on Sunday, of course, we've got this super explosive new moon in Taurus. And it's so explosive because that'll be also the day when Mars and Pluto will have their one last exact opposition. Also because of their retrograde motions. So we see here a culmination, two retrograde motions of both of these interpersonal planets, Mars and Venus. They really dictate to the greatest degree how we experience the relational realm of being in relationship with the world. Not just one-on-one or romantic relationships, but our entire relationship of how we interact with the world. The values that we base our desires on, Venus, and then how we are able to act on them or assert ourselves, or what we want to fight for, where we put energy in, Mars. But I'll speak to the new moon in another video, but for now, the Venus-Saturn North Node conjunction really highlights such a deep degree of dissolutions of the old systems. And that's not just, wow, the financial systems are collapsing or the governmental systems are collapsing and the trust in them is eroding fully, but also a deep inner tidal shift. Remembering that Saturn is a lot of karma. Saturn harvests karma. There's the scythe symbol of Saturn, the great ancient mother goddess, the bone mother, that really harvests karma. And with that, Saturn also dictates and shows karmic contracts. Whenever Venus and Saturn come together, there can be a feeling of karmic contracts are being resolved, which often leads to ends of relationships. On the other hand, of course, we can't deny or forget that Saturn is also where and how we commit, truly, fully commit, where and how we stand in integrity and the authority we find in ourselves or that we give away to the world. Again, governments or whatever outer systems that we want to put our faith and trust in, and in that way try to disown part of our own inner authority so that we feel like, oh, I'm just doing what I'm been told to do or what is expected of me, right? It's not helping us step into that true inner Saturn authority or integrity within ourselves. So Saturn-Venus combinations on the one hand can signal immense endings in relationships and relationship patterns, but at the same time also show us the significance of really committing to the relationships that matter to us. Where and how can we do the honest and real and hard work of Saturn? Where can we stay committed in the hard work, both words of Saturn, hard and work, of love, of relationships, the relationships that matter to us, the relationships where we constantly have to balance and rebalance our inner sense of values, inner sense of worthiness, but also the value systems that we build our relationships on, the foundations. Given that all of this is happening in Pisces, implies even more this other side of Saturn, where Pisces and Saturn have an interesting mix of energies, and one of that is truly the energy of grief. Saturn is heavy, and Saturn can induce grief for all the ways that the physical reality is limiting us, right? Energy of death also. Since this is happening in Pisces, it can also imply all of this collective energies in regards to that. The collective grief that we're feeling. the ability to be able to witness multiple wars and greater collective genocides on our live stream every single day if we want to. You can tune into any kind of YouTube, Instagram, Telegram channel and see this. In the past, this was not possible to this degree. And that really brings the collective grief of the world so much more home to us, so much more direct into our own field of experience. Where and how can we sit with that? Where and how can we still find the love and the deep committed work of love and not let it turn us bitter or into hate or depressed? But also, of course, in our one-on-one relationships, where and how can I commit to the hard work of love and loving and being in a joyful communion, even when it gets tough, even when the tides turn? Do I flee? Do I run away because now it gets nitty-gritty? Or do I see this person, this relationship, this pattern, this work, this whatever it might be, holds so much value that I want to commit and do the hard Saturn work here? So there can be a lot of collective grief in the field, a lot of personal grief, a lot of sense of melancholy also. There can be many relationships that are ending where we feel this karmic contract is over. I served whatever needed to be served here. I learned whatever needed to be learned with this person, with this other soul. But now that contract is done. It's over and done. Karma is being harvested. Saturn says, okay, the time is up. Since Saturn also rules linear time. But then also, where and how is the Piscean side of true universal compassion, true universal forgiveness, the ease to let things go? It's the ending of Venus retrograde, don't forget that. So all the deep lessons that we were beginning to learn or beginning to grasp in the Venus retrograde period are now coming to clearer and clearer mental understanding within us. That there are a certain consciousness that can now arise, which in the retrograde period, we often find things are happening below the surface of our conscious mind. Since Venus also ruled feelings, right? This has so much to do with now being able to come into conscious relationships with the feelings, Venus, of heaviness or grief or sadness or remorse also. Where and how have I acted in the past, Saturn, in a way that did not feel aligned with my true inner integrity? And for that, I can feel a sense of remorse or guilt even. These are also things ruled by Saturn, and they're not inherently bad, right? There can be indoctrinated collective guilt, which we could argue a lot about, but there is a sense of healthy guilt in our own deep personal introspection of where and how we can look back to the past and realize where and how was I standing in alignment with who I want to be, the values that I want to bring in the world, that love that I want to bring in the world, or where have I not? So Saturn brings this deep introspective energy, a very deep yin energy, and in that way again mirrors Pisces quite profoundly. The key, the healing, is of course in the compassionate, forgiving nature of Pisces, to truly let things go, to not take that karma further, to not take the pain of an old heartbreak further, to let that soul go in peace and in love. To let the part of my past or the identity that I was go with peace and forgiveness, and to not hold on and carry these morsels of undigested psychic material into the next coming cycle. Even more so because the Mars-Pluto opposition, which we've got building now over the weekend, talks so much about the destruction and the release and the letting go of an old sense of identity. So a lot of this might even play out not per se with the one-on-one relationships that we have or had, but with our own relationship with ourselves. And then lastly, of course, it brings us to Pisces as the connection to spirit. Where and how can I find a stability, Saturn, a footing, a grounding, a sense of rootedness that gives me strength, that aligns me, Venus, with my values like a North Star, but with a deep sense of Pisces trust and faith and surrender. And where can I work for that? Where can I apply myself in the material, physical reality of the human society, Saturn, in a way that can anchor that down, can anchor that faith, that trust, that peace, that loving, compassionate energy greater into the field, instead of Mars Pluto letting it explode in an explosion of egos, right? But to use that fire of Mars Pluto to burn through old identities and burn through illusions. That's of course the other side with Pisces. It rules illusions, it rules confusions. So Saturn, Venus, North Node can also make us highly aware of where we are and where we are not. Where and how we have been following dreams or escaping into our own dreams or make-believes or wishes for how we wish things would be, and not truly meeting the material, not truly meeting ourselves, or maybe also not truly meeting our loved ones, our partners, our friends, our family members, our community, the way that they truly are, but where we project that glamour of who we want them to be, but then get disillusioned and disappointed when they don't live up to that. And with our own inner selves, we tend to do that more with the side of Piscean escape, where we hide in daydreams, and I wish it would be like this, I wish I would be like that, I wish my life would look like that. But that is also showing us the blind side of an idealized, naive version of what love truly means. And it's not the committed, true work of love. The deep, nitty-gritty karmic entanglement which Saturn shows. Because even if we might be freed of some karmic contract with some person or soul right now, there'll surely be the next one. And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's also a naive vision to think that I have to be able to be healed of my wounds entirely, or my traumas, or my unconscious patterns before I can truly meet true love. That is not true love. That is make-believe. That is a wishy-washy, naive vision of reality. And this true, deep, committed work of love, this is what Venus Saturn is so much about right now. And since the North Node is there, it implies this huge collective focus. Where and how can we find that anchorage, that rootedness, that stability in our sense of faith and trust into something greater, into this greater collective unfolding? Yes, all of these collective structures are falling, and they will continue to fall. They will continue to dismantle and dissolve over the next 1.5 years, especially so, with Saturn and Neptune at the end of Pisces and early Aries dancing there back and forth. And it can bring up all of these Piscean anxieties, all of the fear of the unknown. What will be? Who will I be? Where will I be? How can my life unfold? Right? Pisces shows us the event horizon. Behind that, there's a black hole. Behind that, we can't see what will come. That's a new cycle of Aries, and it has to begin by trusting our instincts and then acting on them truthfully, right? That is the Aries side. But the Pisces side can be flooded with so much anxiety or so much nervousness, and that again leading to a desire to escape reality, to not want to do the nitty-gritty work because it's uncomfortable. But as long as we try to escape it, we're just recreating our karmas and our patterns endlessly, even more so, and in that way get even more entangled, get even more trapped in the karmic cycle, if you like that kind of terminology. So truly meeting ourselves, truly meeting the other where they are, truly meeting and holding the entire heavy weight and gravity of the collective processes, and still choosing love, still choosing forgiveness, and having a deeper trust and faith in the collective unfoldment, because things will go even crazier. Things will feel even heavier. Things might seem even darker for a moment, what we're moving into collectively. Remembering Aries is a sign of war, Aries is a sign of fire and aggression. And Saturn moving in there, Neptune being there now, we're going into very volatile period of humanity this year or the next 1.5, 2 years. And if we don't have that ground of trust and faith into greater collective unfolding within us, we can go into the deep, dark despair of Pisces, or try to completely numb ourselves, use substances, use whatever we can, use relationships, the other, love, attraction, sexual pleasure, to numb ourselves, to distract ourselves, to not really be present, to not truly meet Saturn and see like, okay, there where it's dark and hard and difficult is my greatest work. And I love the quote, I forgot by whom it is, and I think it's really apt for this moment. It's, do the hard thing while it's still easy. do the hard thing while it's still easy. Implying that as long as we procrastinate or try to run away or numb ourselves or distract ourselves from doing the hard thing, it'll just get harder and harder and harder. So might as well just consciously choose to do that Saturn work, whether it's on our one-on-one relationships, on our partnerships, and the life we lead with community, whether it's in the deep questions of faith that might be brought up here, and these potentially huge crises of meaninglessness and pointlessness that can and will pull so many people of the earth into deep dark despair, into a feeling of a bottomless pit of meaninglessness and emptiness, and not giving them the trust, that inner anchorage, that inner connection to spirit of there is a greater unfoldment happening here. But first the old world has to fall, the old world has to crumble, and the old me has to do so too. And nothing in outer reality will be able to give us that anchor, give us that sense of stability. As outer reality will continue to dissolve further and further and further, this will get more and more obvious to everybody. And it's only in that inner alignment to truth, and that inner alignment to the values that we really want to follow like a North Star, that we can connect to the greater whole and trust that whatever humanity is living through right now, there is a point, there is a purpose, even if there's so much pain or sacrifice or destruction that brings us there first. Well, that got heavier than I thought it did. Talk about Saturn, right? Saturn. So, just some reflections ahead of this new moon. The new moon will be intense. I'll get back to that in a moment, in the next days. I hope you're sailing gracefully through whatever karmic cycles are ending for you right now, and whatever insight is arising where you need to step up in a sense of inner integrity, and that you can really meet that, and ultimately with joy, because the hard thing will only get harder, so might as well do it now, right? And to choose the hard work of love, because true love is hard work. Learning to love another, and learning to love ourselves, and learning to love the world as it is. It's really hard work. It's really scary. It's not for the faint of heart. And I trust that you are not one if you're listening to this kind of stuff. So thank you for listening so much. As always, I'm available for one-on-one sessions. If you want to explore where the Saturn, Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, Pluto, Neptune movements are falling and happening in your own chart in this year. Because of course our own unfolding, our own psychic unfolding, and the lessons that we're learning as a soul are not disconnected either from these collective movements. And on a deeper soul level, every single one of us knows, the soul of ourselves knows, the higher self, if you want to call it that, knows or knew long before we were incarnated that this moment in time would come, 2020 would come, and 2025 would come. And this collective awakening would come, but also the collective destruction of the old world and old reality would unfold. And that the lessons that we're here to learn on a very personal, subjective, inner level are in perfect resonance with these greater collective movements. So many people will have very profound, very huge initiation journeys this year, because they are meant to, because the way we're clearing our own karma, Saturn, we heal our ancestral line, we heal our family, we heal our communities, and we also heal the world by healing our own inner patterns. And we can't disconnect that either. It's not about only doing the inner work, and it's not about only getting lost in the outer work. Both can be leading to the illusion. It has to be both. It has to be the inner and the outer at the same time. But yeah, the deeper we heal our own inner patterns, the more clarity and light can we bring to the collective field, because the deeper we can stand in peace and love with ourselves and not fighting with ourselves anymore. And in that way, breaking generational curses, generational patterns, ancestral trauma, collective traumas that also lead to all of these greater collective traumas that we see unfolding in the world right now. Right? So I'd be so honored to meet you there for a deep look into your own birth chart and the unfoldment of your soul. And until then, hope you've got a good new moon. Stay calm, take a few deep breaths. Mars Pluto will be very fiery and very profound and very intense. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.